Hive stand placement is extremely important. I think I put this right after Varroa. Right after Varroa, because people, they listen to the internet, and Johnny has only had bees for 10 days and he's out making videos telling people what to do. And it just absolutely makes the girls go crazy, because they have to say, well, Johnny, if you look, he's only been on YouTube for a week and a half and he's made 50 videos, and that just don't work. You got to have somebody that's seasoned. Okay, so the hive stands, there's a lot of ways that you can do hive stands. One's like this, putting cinder blocks down. You notice that they use gravel to help steady it as well as getting it level. And that's a real easy way to do it there. They used pressure treated 2x6s there to make the actual stand that the hives will sit on. This one here, they got a little bit more creative. Above the cinder blocks, you'll find that they use sheet metal, a polished sheet metal, to help keep the ants off and cockroaches on that side. And they also just used a 4x4 beam going across. Now, this would be somebody that hasn't put a whole lot of time. This could get knocked over in a high wind, because those beams have got to be rock solid. If the hives begin to rock and roll, they're going to turn it over. And this guy, you notice the rocks on the front? He just put a board on the front and put rocks on there and said, okay, I got my entrance reducer. It works, all right? Until high wind maybe comes. All right, this one here is more like what we use here. Very, very steady. This was actually my first hive stand that I ever built, and had my first 4 hives. If you notice the turtle there too, he's keeping a watch out for them. And they're keeping all the bears out of there. One thing that you'll see here in the background, that is to the north, to keep the north winds. We have some Virginia folks. We've got, who was it up in the northeast that came down? Yeah, you get some cold winds. And this is a barrier to keep that cold north wind from chilling the hives during the winter months. You guys in Florida don't have to worry about that. I mean, it's all warm and nice until a hurricane comes through. Yeah. Speaking of hurricanes, that could save your hives, depending on what side it is. When Brian and I went down to Florida, we took a bunch of hives down, and our listeners on Buzz TV also contributed a bunch of money. Brian, what was it, $10,000 that we took down of hives down there? Number 1, flooding out. Number 2, winds. But winds always came first. If they made it through the winds, that was the floods after that. So anyhow, we'll move on. This one here, on the ground. Now, those that are in South Georgia see this all the time. Some of the problems that you have with putting them on the ground, insects. Insects will invade the hives. Also, moisture. A lot of fungus will grow inside and outside of the hive because of lack of ventilation underneath. You'll also notice that the outer cover is ajar. I don't know if that beekeeper was in the warp mode or not, but left it half off, which means the wind's going to get it, first big wind. We had a doctor that did something very similar to this. Is he put down a landscaping fabric first, and then put the lawn timbers around it, and then put mulch in. When you put that vapor barrier there, when the small hive beetles pupate, they go down in the ground right in front of the hive to pupate. And so that barrier keeps them from going down in there and they die. So that's one way of getting ahead of small hive beetles, is to put a vapor barrier there. Jennifer Sarita from Clemson, they did an extensive study, and those worms that came out of the pollen that was within the hive itself would go out the front of the hive up to 14 feet away to pupate. So I don't think all of them can do that, but if we put a vapor barrier within 5 feet of the front, we're going to be okay. They always go towards the sun. They're never going to go back to behind the hive. That was another thing that Jennifer and her students found out there.